Welcome to everyone. I am glad to be here again for our sixth What's Happening in Myanmar bi-weekly update, a collaboration of SEA Junction, a public venue focusing on Southeast Asia based in Bangkok, and Irrawaddy, one of the main media from Myanmar. I am Sciortino, the director and founder of SEA Junction, and I am glad to moderate this session with Aung Zaw, who is the founder and chief editor of the Irrawaddy. As usual, we will have about 20 minutes presentation, 15-20 minutes presentation by Aung Zaw, and then after that, we will take questions about the situation in Myanmar. It will give us a brief update with some key points of issues that he thinks are relevant that have happened in the last 2 weeks, as well as issues that are we have not treated in the previous sessions and may be of interest to our public. Thank you, and Aung Zaw, please. I am not sure what is happening. So it seems we have lost Aung Zaw. He had some problem with electricity as it's home, and then the wire less connection is also, but oh, it's come back already. Okay, luckily you are back. Otherwise, I had to entertain all the people that are already here. Okay, please go ahead.
Hello. Hello, Leah, can you hear me?
Yes, you can go ahead. We had lost you, but glad you are back. I introduced you already.
I have. I see. Oh, thank you, everyone. Sorry that there was a small disturbances. Electricity went off, so I will be sitting in a room without aircon, which is okay, perfect, fine. I was sweating a lot. So thank you, everyone. I will be speaking today 6th time. I probably taken a small break. I have a immense pressure coming to my work, managing the team inside and outside. But thank you, everyone, joining me again. Today, I think 2 issues I want to talk about before I departed. One is about the escalation of conflict in the country. And as we had covered this issue in a Q&A session last time, and because someone in the audience asked me about whether there will be increased violence, which within 2 weeks, we have seen a lot of clashes and confrontations and taking place in the countryside, particularly in a Kayah state, which I will focus on now. You can see that, after seeing the attacks in the Chin state, border in India, and also in the Sagaing region, and we see that conflict spread into the Kayah state, which is opposite to Mae Hong Son province in Thailand. You may have seen, you may have been to Mae Hong Son province, which is a beautiful place. If you have seen the landscape, if you can imagine that Kayah state is have a very similar terrain and a beautiful mountain and a landscape. So there are new groups emerge, known to be civilian fighters emerging Kayah state. The one is known as KNDF, Karenni Nationalities Defense Force. The other one is a KPDF, which is the Karenni People's Defense Forces. So as of Monday this week, there were sketchy initial reports came out of that area, which is about a lot of fighting took place on that day. And at the end of the day, we discovered that about 80 80 Burmese soldiers were killed, and which initially we did not believe that figures and numbers. We thought that it was inflated and exaggerated. So we tried to, it took about 24 hours to find out and investigate and make an assessment in that area with our stringers and our colleagues and our reliable sources. And then we got a confirmation that from the KNDF and the KBDF forces and other forces who are active in that area, who also took part in the fighting. They confirmed that over 80 Myanmar soldiers, Burmese soldiers were killed. This is extraordinary figures because compared to the Burmese military in the past fighting with the other forces, even with the powerful Communist Party of Burma in 1980 and 1970s, their casualties within a day, 80 soldiers lost are huge. Because in a long fight with the CPP, Communist Party of Burma, or other strong forces in the north or in the south, the casualties will be minimal, or maybe hundreds of soldiers will be lost within a 3 months or 6 month period of time or a year. But within a day or two, over 80 soldiers, the lives been lost. This is very interesting. That is becoming a game changing. I think even though the civilian fighters admitted that their weapons are inferior to the military hunter, and but their spirits are very high, and they have a very familiar terrain. They surrounded sometimes they surrounded the troops and attack them from behind or ambush them, and that shows that the new civilian forces seems to be, even though their weapons are inferior to the military regime, they apparently are in high spirits and very well organized. They have a ground intelligence. They have public support. The regime, in response, came up with the jet fighters, helicopter gunships, bombing areas, artillery fires, as well as the drones are being used to drop the bombs, and also trying to scan the areas and monitor the areas of active insurgents trying to monitor. In spite of all that and sophistications and advanced weapons that they have, at the end of the day, the casualties are very high. And also, when we talk to them, the civilian fighters, they seems to be coordinating very well. They're somehow forming united fronts, but like the long traditional forces, like in KNPP, Korean National Progressive Party, or the armed groups, KNPP armed forces, they remain behind. They don't take part in the attack. And so these new emerging civilian forces seems to be calling the shots and taking control of the territory and making a real challenge and a threat to the regime forces. So, anyway, it is very sad to talk about the killings, and because we are not going to rejoice over the killings and death of people, the war going on. But what are we saying is, what are we trying to make a assessment analysis is that the conflict is unfortunately widening, and the area in the Kayah State so far, the fighting started in May 21st, and even now we have over 100,000 people became internally displaced people in Kayah State alone. So beyond the Kayah State, I would like to share a few information and news, our thought and our analysis. If you look at beyond the Kayah State, I will take you back to the Yangon area. Also, Yangon, you see the very rapidly changing situation, because a couple of weeks ago, I talked about the regime is controlling trying to control the population, and trying to stop the protest and demonstration. And they somehow successful in doing that last 3 or 4 weeks ago. But nowadays, the people are coming back to challenge the regime in a different form of opposition. Because of, if you look at it, The boycott, as well as explosion, the targeted assassination continued in Yangon. And also 2 days ago, the regime made an attempt to open the schools, primary schools. But it's only a few students turned up, which shows that the regime also failed to reopen the schools. And also there have been a daily explosion, targeted killings, targeted assassination, drive-by shootings, and continue in Yangon and other major cities, including Mandalay. And soldiers, police, and GAD officials, the government officials, informants, and even family members of soldiers and police and the regimes become very unsafe and insecure. You can also gauge by seeing so many comments posted in the social media, those who are associated with the regime, and they show that signs of insecurity, disappointment, sadness, and despair, which shows that the soldiers who are guarding the Yangon feel no longer safe. 2 or 3 months ago, you can see that these are the soldiers who are becoming town bullies. They challenged the people with guns, and they shouted and screamed in Burmese, and they said, "Come out if you dare to die." They would shoot and kill people and break into the houses, arrest people and torture people, beat them to death. But then now it seems to be that their turn is coming. This is what I want to say. Now the men in uniform now they have started to taste the fear. Now they stay behind the barricades, they stay behind the sandbags, and no one knows when or where or how the next attack will take place or will occur. The target is also changing. I mean, the ones who are taking the oath to protect the people, life of the people, to protect the states, to protect the country, to save its own citizen, now they are living in fear. That's how we make an assessment. So the soldiers and police are becoming an object of the disgust. And then you can see that also very demoralizing for the soldiers who feel very proud in the past. They protect the state, they protect the country, they're out to protect the country and people and citizens. And so this is how I want to make a comparison between 1988 and the current situation. In 1988, after the military coup, what happened? Because of the regime known as SLOC at the time, was able to control the population a few weeks after the military coup in 1988. And they control the population, they can control the administration, they can control the military commands, they can control most importantly, they can control the regional commanders in each states in the region, throughout the country. And slowly, and then the normalcy slowly go back to the country in 1988 within a month. And then they later introduced the market economy. The economy is running okay, and the market came back alive, and trade and border trade, including border trade, resumed. And also those who fled to the border, Thai-Myanmar border or China border, or also to India border, including myself, who fled in 1988, we were stuck on the border, or as some people already fled and migrated to other countries. Those who want to take up in the armed struggle, they also base in the border, and they can never leave the border areas, and they can never penetrate inside interior of the country. So this is very different now. Now is the regime, so far after 4 months of staging the attempted coup, they still cannot control the administration. The banking system is not working. The economy is in trouble. People remain very resilient, and majority of the people and population continue to oppose the military coup. And also, as I said earlier, Kayah State and Sagaing region, as well as in Chin State, even in Yangon and Mandalay, the attack and explosion, targeted assassination continued, and that destabilized the country. Not as a whole, but just destabilization, instability continue to take place. But more importantly, also the USDP, Union Solidarity Development Party, once a ruling party, associated with the military and military they are also cracking up because of, you can see that if you look at the social posting of the USTP, even the senior USTP members, they are becoming very disappointed. They are becoming very demoralized. You know, compared to February, they were very happy to see the military was staging the coup. But now, as you can see, that the posting that every week and every day, they're posting, they're sharing their sentiment that is changing. So I think what I want to say is the soldiers, the morale are very low. If the opposition or NUG or anyone, if they have a better idea or option or any better incentive to persuade the military soldiers to defect or leave the armed forces, I think they will leave. I think the now is, if they leave, only the corrupt and the crony generals and then their wives and relatives will remain at the top. That's my guessing. So all in all, what we can say is that, you know, after 4 months of staging this alleged attempted coup, the coup is failing and still failing. One of my senior journalists who has also gone through the 1988 turbulent years and even remain in Yangon, I spoke to him yesterday. He said the stamina of the people in Myanmar remain very, very strong. And it's not the stamina of the people, our diplomats inside the country keep asking, how long can you go? It seems to me and it seems to him that the people will continue to challenge in different kinds of form to the military and the coup. So he asked me whether we should ask whether the stamina of the soldiers or officers remain strong. So this is very interesting. If they can continue to sustain, I think next 3 months or 4 months, we will see the very interesting turning point, probably. That regime is cracking up and I think they will start to find a way out, or maybe even exit strategy of this very messy failed coup attempt. That's what I want to share in the first. Second is, I think before, you know, I was taking a break from this session, and I would like to talk about a little bit, share about the importance of the independent media. Because if I take you back to the history of the Irrawaddy itself, in 1993, I started in a small room in Bangkok, and we have only 2 or 3 people started it, and with a very small amount of money we have. And we are, of course, non-profit. We are not commercial media. And we have trained people. We have trained young refugees to become a reporter. Now they are joining the VOA or BBC or remain with us. They became a very professional reporters. And we were known as sometimes dissident media, or we were sometimes known as exile media, well, whatever they call it. And the important thing is we are staunchly independent media. Our editorial independence is very, very important for us. Even if we are taking a grants money or donation from anyone, any individual or organizations, and we are not affiliated with governments or opposition, that we are pioneer. I myself are proud to say that we are pioneer in introducing the word independent in the early stage. Because of this independent word I introduced, even then opposition or ethnic forces, even they are not very happy with the usage. But now it become a common terms among us that there are a few independent media in our country, outside the country now. But I will take you to 2011 and 2012. When the country was opening up, this is one of our objective was to bring the brand, the media house back to the country. We were so happy to go back. We were so happy to go back. We were very, very cautious. And also donors are very cautious. Our partners are very cautious too. So in 2012, I went back to the country. I got a 5 days visa to enter my own country. And country was slowly opening up. And I was able to, I gained the confidence to run the office. So we started to open a small office. Then there was a question from some of our partners and donors that should you go home? Should you go back to run complete because other people are going home? Other people are just setting up their shops, setting up their media houses. I kept telling them that I want to keep one foot in and one foot out because the situation it wasn't very stable, and we want to make sure that our operation is safe and sound. That was my excuses. That was my answer to them, and we kept it. And there are some, I heard not only my own experience, but also I heard from some other people that some of the donors, a few donors, I think, are pushing a lot of groups, civil society groups, advocacy groups, CSOs, based along the border to go home, go home. Myanmar was opening up, everything was fine. Go home, go back to do your things inside the country. But who can guarantee the safety if something happened? Of course, when we were inside the country, we were harassed. Our colleagues were arrested, and even under Aung San Suu Kyi government, our colleagues were arrested by the military, and the government couldn't do anything. They couldn't even acknowledge that how much work we have done when we were outside the country to highlight the situation of the country, to keep educating the people inside and outside, particularly those policymakers, governments, the organizations, everyone, that what happened in Burma for the last 20 years, 25 years. That's what we have done it. So inside the country, also, we found a new catchy phrases, sustaining the independent media, income generating, and how to make money from your platform and your media, and so we've meet a lot of new people who came to us and talked to us, looking at our figures, looking at our papers, and talking about investing. Our size is very small. Size is not very small, it's small, but compared to other giant medias. But we're not commercial, so we have about 30 people, 40 people, 50 people maximum. But then we have reached to 60, 70 later stage. But at the time, we met some interesting investor or donors who kept pushing us to become a self-sustaining, self-sufficient, income generating, revenue generating. We were pushed to that. It's not much about journalism, not much about independent journalism, not much about maintaining your independence in this difficult time. And one of them I met myself is over the 2 years, I met Omidyar, one of the biggest philanthropists in the world. And they came to see us and see me for two years and looking at our papers, auditing everything. My budget is less than $1 million, but still for 2 years, they came to look at my papers for 2 years. Not enough yet. They don't know how to invest in this kind of media. They can talk about income generation, how much money you're going to make, how much money you're going to make. This is very funny experience I have. I kind of also very condescending and very patronizing, very, very much, I think, white supremacy thinking, the way that they come to look at the local media and the way they treat the local media and independent media in very rude and very impolite way. Media is one of them. The other one is, I think, the other one is, but we never had any deal. They came back with a one sentence to say that we couldn't do it. But after 2 years of looking at our papers, and I share this experience with one of my friends, whom Leah knows, Therese, and I told her what happened after 2 years. She said to me that it was called rape. You were being raped by those people. So, this is quite a funny experience I have. Another one is some of the donors are very naive. They don't know about Burma well enough, but they are subcontractor, and they will come and talk to you. And we have this issue, that particular issue. If you write about this, we have this kind of deal, we have that kind of deal. But while you empty, your stomach was empty, you were forced to do something because of you want to keep the operation going, right? And we have one NGO from I think Australia, call it Pouncy. They came up with the amount of many $100,000, but they they drive you to the particular area without respecting the editorial independence of Irrawaddy. And finally, we felt like they are becoming like a official censorship board in Burma. We feel like they are trying to impose a full control over the censorship over our editorial policy. It was one of the NGO from Australia. I think they get a lot of money from EU or Norway or whatever, but this is how they treat the local partners, supposed to be partners. And we finally returned the money to them because we felt like we felt like another rape case is coming. So we trying to prevent it. They cannot come to rape us. So that's the something I want to share with you. You know, then now we are back to square one. We are back here. Lucky that we have a small food remain in outside of the country. And so we are now renovating and we are reconstructing and we are building up again the team and everything. And we're back to square again. But I wonder who will come back to ask us, are you okay? How are you surviving? How are you going to do it? There are some people who come back to us, a few faithful partners. They came back to ask us question, what's going on? So I had a discussion with one of the partners. So I told him and told her that, you know, you should be lucky and you should feel proud to have a few handful of media, independent media, remain and thrive and continue to work in this very, very difficult time to continue to provide important information, analysis, with the courage, you know, particularly our team inside the country, providing a daily breaking news, whatever happened. Because when the country goes dark, we all want to know what's going on in this country. It is called Burma now, right? So we try very hard to provide truth, the facts-based information, analysis, and keeping our editorial independence. I don't become a multi-millionaire media owner. And if I'm in China or if I'm in the US or somewhere with our readership engagement, I will not need anyone to come to invest in me. I would think we will be able to make a lot of good amount of income to keep the operation going. But unfortunately, we are in a country where there is no market. Then there are some people, loose cannon or carpetbagger, whatever you call it, they come to tell us, oh, there's a market survive and your country is going up. So you can make a lot of money. We're going to come and invest in blah, blah, blah. They could come and talk to us. And nowadays we're back to square one, you know? So the final thing I want to summarize is it's important that we remain alive. It's important that we are not only alive, but also our editorial independence remain alive. This is where for the last 20 years, 30 years, a donor should be happy and the partner should be happy and proud of it. I think that's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think that was a j'accuse, yeah, all the what you have been through in the last, I don't know, 20 years at the least of struggle, even more, of struggle of keeping independent media alive. The Irrawaddy, one among many others, were still trying to survive with all the challenge of that. I think we are also going to talk later more about ASEAN, the visit that is coming. But for now, let's see if there is any question coming first. If not, I have myself a question about, I am interested in knowing more about the civil forces. Yeah. Who are they? Are this indeed, like we read, people from the city that went, students and other who went back, but then, like you say, they are quite experienced. So they know the area, so that make me think more of people from the area itself. Can you tell us more about who are these civil forces who are not the traditional ethnic army?
I think, Leah, what I was saying is, what I understand your question is you mean civilian fighters, right?
Yes, the ones
Yeah.
that are now
Those civilian fighters, for instance, those civilian fighters from Kayah states they are from Kayah state. They are not from any other parts of the country. So they've been staying there, living there. They may be having a training from the other major forces. They may be getting support from the other forces or military training, but traditionally they live there. They are probably hunters. They are very familiar with the terrain. Uh, they are not foreigner to that territory. They're native from their own land. So I think they are, in terms of mobility, in terms of moving around, gathering forces, how to lure the enemies to the targeted killings, and they can suddenly make a very robust attack and ambush. Uh, Quite amazing, quite astonishing, I think, because of the numbers of people I shared that I lost were very high. It's quite a high number. Even the regime did not dare to admit it. They only share the information that there were armed clashes taking place, or some soldier died, and some people wounded. But they did not even want to provide exact figures because numbers are too high. And also, we also suspected that there are probably some misfire or friendly. The troops came under friendly fire because of the helicopters and jet fighters were being deployed and attacked the bomb the civilian population and civilian fighters where there are suspected people fighters hiding or defending. So we are also making some deeper analysis that there are some misfire and the troops came and a friendly fire from their own people, their own jet fighters, and, helicopters, gunship, and that caused a much more heavier casualties.
Okay. Now we have a question from Kim Atkinson about where do people find the resource to eat, keep their family alive? We know that many of them have no job. I mean, they have probably no money or difficulty to get cash. So how people survive in this situation?
Well, I think it's a good question, but people are those who are living in the urban cities are having a hard time. The Because of skyrocketing prices, and also the losing the jobs, and they have difficult time. But those who are living in the countryside are I think they have a better chance to survive because they have a river and they have a water and they have a trees, they have a farm, so they can survive in their own terms. That's how they are surviving, and they help each other. There are communities. So I think those living in the cities having a much more difficult time. I think I would say that those living in the apartments are much more difficult to now survive and live. But those living in the countryside, they keep surviving. And in terms of survival skills, they have a better chance to keep and sustain and stay longer, I think.
Okay, then for the moment there are no questions yet. So let's go to the visit of ASEAN. And we discussed before that there is the plan for ASEAN to visit Myanmar. What is your view of that?
Well, I think I have a very mixed feeling about ASEAN. You know, I use the word they are a bunch of clowns, so I don't change my position to calling them a bunch of clowns and idiots. So, and also why we have to, if we call them a bunch of clowns, why we have to depend on the ASEANs? I don't think. I think it will only give the very false impression or false hope that ASEAN is coming here to do something. I think ASEAN is disappointed. ASEAN will no doubt will disappoint the majority of Burmese people. I don't think Burmese people inside the country also doesn't have a much expectation from ASEAN. So I don't think we should have a high hope. or we should have a high expectation of the upcoming ASEAN visit. And also because I expand my thought further, that ASEAN exercises non-interference policies that the regime likes and their favorite. And people in Myanmar or people in Thailand or people in Indonesia, they might hate it. They might dislike the non-interference policy. Is now an ASEAN softly approach and to Burma, and also ASEAN's no action policy serve as a shield to the regime in the past and even now. So it's not surprising that ASEAN, if you expect anything from ASEAN, spending 24 hours in the Naypyidaw meeting with those regime leaders and so-called stakeholders, that will not make sense. But interestingly, if regime feel that they are under intense pressure, they might let ASEAN to meet with the detained leaders like Aung San Suu Kyi or president, and that probably. But also, if they allow to meet those leaders and it's legitimate government leaders who were ousted in February military coup, we shouldn't be too excited, because in the past, whenever regime, whenever they felt that they are pushed to the corner, whenever they felt that they have to accommodate something, and they have to make a small, teeny concession or to the donor countries or to the West or to East sanction, they always allow Aung San Suu Kyi to come out with a smiling face and shake hands, and UN meter and UN representative come to see her and shake hands. That will ease the pressure. That will also ease the domestic pressure. And so I won't be expecting too much from this ASEAN because of ASEAN serve as a shield to the regime. And basically, I would say that no one is doing anything, even the West doing nothing on Burma, except making statements, except to impose targeted sanctions. And so I think I would say that cynically, not to be too cynical, but say that ASEAN can be undisturbed on its own because it's doing nothing.
Okay, well, a depressing expectation about, but and here we have a couple of questions more again about the international play at the moment. Do you think that Myanmar conflict figures very high on the screen of world affairs for Western foreign policymakers to the extent that they would intervene? We have not seen this happening. And what about intervention in terms of supply of humanitarian aid, or what is expected to stop supply of military goods to Myanmar? Are they going to do anything? Is Myanmar a priority? What would be the tipping point for this foreign agency to start to do something, if any, and also to support the NUG? The second question is about Chevron and Total move to stop payment, although it's only for the shareholder at the moment. It's not the complete payments, but still will have any significant impact. And then a third question, we have more, but I will stop at the third one. A few weeks ago, you mentioned that China was making contact with the opponents to the coup. Do you know, so people remember what you said 2 weeks ago, this is very good to note. Do you know what has been happening in this regard since the last 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And there are some more questions, but I will wait for the next round. Yes, please.
No, thanks for all questions. The questions are great. I want to start with the last question about China. China is much more interesting because the ASEAN trip is coming. It's not just to Naypyidaw, but also after that trip, this delegation, ASEAN Secretary Generals and other one more member from the Brunei, I think, they are flying to China. They're going to attend the ASEAN China Summit. So this itself is interesting. If we posted this news or breaking news of ASEAN delegation going into Myanmar in a Burmese language, you can start to see that a very negative, very cynical, very a lot of critical perspective. Letters, a comment appear in a chat box, in a comment box. What I want to say is China put itself is geopolitical, and is self-interest too much on Burma, and that's the biggest mistake. China is facing a country rapidly destabilizing. China is now staring at the neighboring country, our neighbor, to put it that way, a neighboring house, which is destabilizing and continuing to destabilize, and that will have a lot of long-standing impact on the neighboring countries, not only China, but also India or Thailand. So this is important thing. So because of Myanmar is very important in terms of China's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative and long-term design for the regional infrastructure and port access, and deep sea port access, and also to the along the Indian Ocean. This is one of the things that China will never leave Myanmar in peace. China is going to be inside the country, deeply engaged with all the stakeholders, including NUG, the government, and ethnic groups, as well as the military regime. So that's why I think you can see that during the early stage of the protest in February and March, there was a very rising anti-China sentiment and protest daily breakout in our country, especially in front of the Chinese embassy in Yangon. So this is very interesting. China also play a big role in terms of protecting the regime in the United Nations Security Council. So this is another thing that will inflame the people's sentiment and people's anger. And China knows that this time the West is very slow. I will answer the second question. The West is coming very slow, and West is somehow losing the interest. And even the U.S. representative who came to Bangkok, I think a few days ago, she talked about she support the ASEAN centrality. I don't know what that means, but if you talk about ASEAN centrality, then we don't have much hope. I think the reason is Myanmar is increasingly becoming a battleground for the regional powers, as well as between the U.S. and China. And this is the issue that I think the U.S. is trying to come back, and U.S. cannot heavily criticize ASEAN because of ASEAN is leaning and moving towards China. This is another reason that I think the West is also engaging very carefully and very cautiously with the ASEAN over Myanmar issue because of China. And also on the side of China, China also doesn't want to see the rising Western influence in Myanmar. Last 4 or 5 years, you can see that the Western influence in Myanmar is getting strong, and that is the reason that China was very unhappy with the rising Western influence in Myanmar. So this is, China doesn't want the Myanmar issue to be internationalized. China doesn't want the West to become a major player in our crisis, and China wants Myanmar affair to keep it itself as a regional. That's why China is keeping and counting on ASEAN, and because China thinks that it can control the ASEAN. So this is what I want to share. But if the country is becoming more and more destabilized, I think I said earlier, maybe a month or 2 months ago, that China will be the key person, not the West, will have to force to intervene in Burma because of it has its own economic interests, BRI projects, a lot of geopolitical strategic interest, access to Indian Ocean. So I think China will be forced to intervene, but it has stayed a long way on the road. I think that's until we see that China's business interest Chinese projects inside the country are become under attack, then I think China will be forced to intervene in our country's affairs. Because 2 or 3 weeks ago, there were unexploded bombs where devices were uncovered near the gas pipeline in central Burma. I don't know who planted them, but that is intended to, or intentionally giving a warning to China, or intentionally trying to create a misunderstanding. We don't know yet, because these devices are unexploded and are found by the security official. But my point is, if the forces inside the country are starting to target the Chinese interest in our country, we will see that China will start to intervene in our affairs and this crisis, or not of our affairs, in this crisis. That's what I want to say.
The last question, there was one question about Chevron and Total move to stop payments. Will this have significant impacts on Myanmar?
I think I have this question before. I think not a significant impact, because of this only the very small amount of money from the $360 million. I think only $41 million will not be handled to the regime or military officials. So the amount is very small. But I think the action is, I think, politically symbolic, but we never had it before. So this kind of action, if they keep coming from the other major stakeholders and business partners that regime was counting on, then that will have, I think, they will have a lot of impact on the regime and military leaders and their family members. I think it should go to the right direction, and keep squeezing the business that to make sure that the regime suffer from the lack of oxygens and start to be choking. In that sense, I think they will start to feel that pressure was really coming, and whatever they had calculated were wrong, and they miscalculated the whole thing, even from their own business partners, and then they were backing off. I think Japan is also important. We are talking about Western business companies, but also I think Japan is very, very soft on the regime, and too polite and too considerate. I think Japan is one of the key partners that I think a lot of people in the future will start to focus on the Japanese business inside the country, Japan-Myanmar relationship, and the military to military relationship, Japan association, long association with the military leaders, and even in business. So I think Japan is also going to be, I think, in the future, I think in the near future, I think the boycott group, advocacy groups, that they will start to focus on the Japan's interest in the country, because of Japan is, coming very slowly to condemn the military coup and the regime, and still they are still unsure whether they will completely pull out of the country, or if they don't want to pull out of the country, and their biggest excuse is, oh, because of China, we cannot get out of this country. If we leave all, if there's a vacuum, which is true, and Chinese companies and Chinese will come in, Chinese loan will come in, and they will start to take over all the businesses, which is somehow true. I think that's why I think the West and also Japan also face a huge dilemma, because if they leave, if they depart the country, and China will be very happy because they can take over, and a lot of business, a lot of strategic areas of business. And this is natural gas and oil pipelines and other businesses and real estates, natural resources, and the key special economic zones, which I think 2 days ago, the regime, one of the regime leaders and the General Min talk about all the special economic zones, including Chaopyu, a deep sea port, which is China invested and will have to continue. And so I think regime is also pushing all these SEZ special economic zones and all these major projects by China, and which is also sending a signal to China that we are the one you can make we are the one who will make a deal with you, and not the Aung San Suu Kyi government. And then this is very interesting signal that regime was making. Also probably desperate because of they need the cash, they need the investment coming in. And they are sending the message to China that we will continue all those SEZ project with you, and you can come in.
Okay, so the last question to finish this round. What are Myanmar religious group and leader stance on the military coup? Are they united or divided in their view of the junta? And then maybe a conclusive question for this episode and your participation here. What is your hope for support of independent media? You have talked about the bad practices. Maybe can you finish on a more optimistic tone of what would be useful, what would be the ideal support for independent media?
I really appreciate all these questions. For the independent media, I think we have to keep going. We have come a long way, and then if I'm very cynical and very pessimistic, then I have to blame the heat here, and it's very hot here. So I'm sorry about that. But I'm internally and spiritually, I feel very optimistic, and you know, and we will keep our professional. I'm also very happy and proud of our team members inside and outside. They keep working, trying to be professional. A lot of them are trained journalists. Almost 90% are trained journalists, and they work hard, and they're very loyal to you. Let me share that they are eager to provide you very much fact-based information analysis to you, and also I share the experience a little bit, maybe much more critical way in earlier remark. I think because of we felt like, you know, it was something, the way that we were treated by some people, that, and especially we felt sad, and then we felt very sorry about this. But we soldier on. We will need your support. Your support is very important, and support is not about cash and time. I'm talking about even your moral support. Your thank you support is very important to our work, our team. They will be more than happy to receive it from you. You know, that's what we are doing, and we will keep doing whatever difficulties we face. We have a lot of difficulties we had in the past, either whether you're operating inside the country or outside the country or along the border areas. And our hopes are still, you know, our work is still, I think, profoundly professional and working very hard. And then both sides like you and hate you and dislike you and respect you with fear and with respect. This is a journalism. This is what we love this. And I'm happy that we are not becoming a commercial, sold out media. We still very much religiously working for the independent journalism, jealously keeping our editorial independence, you know, and no matter what, any pressure comes from any side, from our regime or other people, other stakeholder, we always keep, you know, our resilience and deflect these old pressure and keep working on, you know. So this is important. So I will keep working for you, for all of you, and I will keep providing good information and good quality information. This time is important because when the countries go dark, we will be there, because this is not time that countries go dark, and we are here ready to provide you whatever essential information, and then we will also need your support. You know, support any form of support coming to our team is important to us. And
last question.
Of course, they are.
The religion, the question about religion, a religious group. Are they united? Are they with the coup makers? It's a general question about religious group. I am not sure whether Buddhist or all.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about whoever they are. I think justice and injustice are very obvious in our country. We are very proud to be. Sometime in our country, I've seen a lot of people who are very religious people, but last 4 months, you can see again. No, we're talking about decades old. We're talking about last four months. You can clearly see which side is wrong and which side is right. And I think any religious organization or religious leadership, I think whoever came out to condemn this mindless killings and the brutal killings, I think they should do so. But also, I personally, I think religious, particularly the Buddhist monks who are out on the streets,
Well, it seems we have lost Aung Zaw. Maybe it's not supposed to talk about the Buddhist monks, but let's see if he's coming. Hello?
today is very very unfortunate. I don't know why, but the electricity is not very stable here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear. You were talking about the monks, the Buddhist monks.
Yeah, I mean they are so divided. There are a lot of Buddhist influential monks are siding with the military. We call it Bentley driven monks because they have a very expensive limousine and expensive buildings and monasteries and all that. And so I think people inside the country, outside the country, I think they started to be a little bit very critical of those religious groups because of they don't serve the people. I think they serve some cronies and military leaders, and happy to associate with those. So I think those zealous and extreme Buddhist monks, something that we should also look at and report more on that, because of there are a lot of disgusting I think stories going on since the military coup, how some of the religious leaders are so corrupt and collaborating with those coup makers and military leaders. Something that I think the media also should look at it. I think.
Okay, so I think
something that we should also next episode, maybe next 2 or 3 months when I have a free time. I think some of the also issue that we should cover. I think including the issue of the Rohingya.
Yes, I am glad about that. So I am glad to hear you are willing to come back, even if not every 2 weeks. But I think we will continue with maybe different speaker, although there is no one like Aung Zaw. Let me be honest on this. I have my own bias, as she always provide very sharp analysis of the situation, as well as the passion, including a critical passion, which I very much appreciate. Having been a donor, I think it's very good to be reminded about good and bad practice, and to talk more about those practices, because often the donors are not exposed to public scrutiny, which is very important in my view. Again, having been a donor, having been in that position, I believe donors deserve more scrutiny, and this is what he has also been talking about. So I really appreciate the openness, as well the real experience that he has shared with us for the last 6 episodes. We plan to continue these bi-weekly updates, but we have to work out how we will do, and indeed we hope that Aung Zaw will be willing to come back, if not every time, at the least every 2 or 3 times. So thank you again, Aung Zaw, for this. I wish indeed that we give more support to the independent media, and particularly to the Irrawaddy. You will see you can make a donation to them, no matter how big or small. I think everything helps, and it is also a symbolic gesture in terms of supporting the work of the important work that he has been doing. And indeed, it's important to keep media independent, not only politically, but also economically, to have their own funds so that they don't need to follow any direction, and they can inform us more objectively about what is happening. Objectively doesn't mean without choosing side. I want to say,
you can always take a side.
You can always take a side.
And then we do take a side. We are not ashamed to take a side. And then that's who we are and what we are. And we do appreciate it. And also whatever that donors or military or whatever they have given us, they make us stronger. They don't make us weaker. That is a lesson that we learn from the past, and that's who we are and what we are. And we are always getting strong and keeping our work professionally. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you, Leah. And I really do appreciate this 6th episode that I had with you all, and thank you for support, especially all your questions are great. I would like to see you all in person sometime when the COVID things are over. Also, when things are getting better in free Burma, we will have a good party.
Okay, so we will be waiting, and for sure we will be trying to get Aung Zaw back on the stage with us. So thank you again. Thank you, Irrawaddy, and thank you to all who have followed us, and keep strong.
Thank you. Thank you, Leah.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.